Hello, and welcome back to another interview. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Luke Norman, who is the chairman of US Gold Corp. Hi, Luke. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you, Justin. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And really timely since we know we have a lot of action happening in gold right now. So before we dive in deeper, I'm wondering if you could please provide a high-level overview or an elevator pitch of US Gold Corp.
Yeah, certainly. So we are listed on NASDAQ. USAU is our trading symbol. We are in the pre-development stage with one of our assets called the CK Gold Project, which is located about 20 miles due west of Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and a fully permitted project, so very, very unique story.
So as we're thinking about like gold, I guess like what I'm wondering is like how long have you been in the gold industry and why are you bullish on gold?
Too long. I've been in the gold sector since the late 90s, okay? And the reason I got into gold at that time is I believed that there was going to be a transference of wealth back from the digital, that was the dot-com era. And I thought there'd be a flow through of capital from that boom and bust cycle that occurred there back into resources and particularly precious metals. And on
Hmm.
top of that, I've always been a bit of a skeptic of fiat currencies, simply given that fiat currencies have really only been in a pure existence for about 50 years. So, yeah.
Okay, so as we're thinking about the landscape for gold, I'm interested to get your take on this. So, since you've been around since the 1990s, there's been a couple of rate hiking cycles. There's been a couple of rate cutting cycles, and it appears like now we're going into another cutting cycle. So, since your company is named U.S. Gold Corp, I'm guessing you're bullish on U.S. gold. But my question here for you is that when we're thinking about where gold is going to go, as this interest rate, again, cutting environment kind of starts, like, what's your take on that? Why would this be good for gold?
Well, I mean, traditionally, interest rate environment, a decreasing interest rate environment has always just been bullish for gold. In higher interest rates, people tend to just deposit their money into fixed savings account, and they get a return on investment. With
Mhm.
lower interest rates, you're not getting the returns in your bank accounts like we witnessed for well over the last decade. So people are more inclined to deploy it into, uh, you know, investment assets such as gold that you'll get some leverage with. In this instance, of course, gold has been going up as the interest rate environment has gone up as well, or as the
Mhm.
interest rate, has gone up. So it'd be really interesting to see if we do end up in a cutting cycle, how gold behaves. But one would suspect it will get higher.
Mhm. Okay, follow-up question here. So, at least from because I'm like I've been alive since the 1990s, but I've not been trading since the 1990s. So, I guess what I'm wondering is like, does something feel different in this cycle? Because at least from my perspective, like when interest rates are going higher and we have a real yield, like on bonds and treasuries, and gold is still again chugging higher with some bumps along the road, but now it's at all-time highs even before the cutting cycle starts. So I guess like what I'm wondering is like, why would gold be doing that? Again, over the course of like a multi-decade boom and bust cycle.
Now, look, it truly is, I think, an anomaly to all of us, where there's a bit of a surprise kind of. You asked me what the feel is. You know, I feel like we're in just such a conflicted and strange marketplace right now. There's no normalized valuation metrics, even just down to our sector. Excuse me. The
Mhm.
gold miners. Uh, the producers certainly are starting to reflect this higher gold price because obviously it's great for their balance sheets. But a company like mine, a development project in a great jurisdiction, would usually have much higher value metrics than it currently does. So it is a very strange beginning to a very big gold bull cycle. But hey, look,
Hmm. Okay,
bulls
so
aren't
let me
immune to
repeat back what I
cycles.
heard. You can correct me if I'm wrong, because I have another question that I'm trying to like suss out here. So, um, generally, if gold starts to move, miners move with more beta, which means it amplifies the move. And then as we go down the risk spectrum, if the big guys can't move, the small guys can't move. But when the move does start, gold will go first, and then we get an amplifying effect for large cap miners, medium cap miners, all the way down to the junior plays and these discovery plays. So I
That's
guess
right.
like what's happening with the disconnect between those two? In your opinion? And then the follow-up that I wanted to sneak in here was like, I think this the purpose of gold is to store value. So the reason why from 1990s until now, it's not a flavor of the day. It's always been a store of value. It's always held its value. And that's what I find so interesting about this most recent hiking cycle, where gold was able to hold its own and actually advance when it gives you no real yield, which means there's no real reason to hold on to it unless you think
Yeah,
something else is happening. So again, sorry for the long question, but curious on your take, please.
yeah. Look, there is something happening, and again, I do believe it's a bit of lack of faith and belief starting to build in the fiat currency system. I mean, look at what it is. It's just endless dilution of wealth, and essentially, and people are starting to recognize it. So safe havens like gold, like Bitcoin as well, where you're not as regulated. The government can't just grab a hold of it. I think it attracts people. As to why there's a disconnect between the metals price and the miners, and then obviously the trickle down effect through the mid tier and into the junior space, is it's just a matter of capital flows. The capital flows have not shown up at the institutions yet. So the generalists are usually the first guys in, and they're starting to come in. And then more money gets attracted into those generalist funds, and then they look for the more seasoned resource funds, goes into those. Then the bankers start mining and dining the mining companies and start pushing for more and more M&A activity because that's how they get paid. So, we just wait to see those capital inflows.
Okay, so there's a quote that I really like, Luke. It's called buy when there's blood in the streets. So I think there's blood in the streets right now for some of these miners, some of these juniors, but I know that not all blood is created equal, which means when you're able to find the good companies and separate them from the ones that are in the rest of the pack, that's where investors can have a really good opportunity. So shifting gears here, I'm wondering if you could please describe like where your assets are located, please.
Yeah, of course. And how to pick
Yeah.
how to pick the wheat from the chaff, as it were, right?
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that it is tough, and it's even for me. I've been in this sector for pushing close to 30 years, as I mentioned. I still have trouble and get tripped up sometimes over the myriad of risk factors that there are. It's not just project level and jurisdiction level, then it's management issues potentially, or you can buy a good miner and something fails at the mine. There's some production risk. And then the overall metals prices, gosh, I'm putting myself off my own industry. It is a challenge. So look, that's why, again, I use the word unique when I first did the intro to US Gold Corp. We are very unique. We have a tremendous jurisdiction. Just being in the US, even though it has its challenges politically, I'm sure right now, it is a wonderful place. It is the best address in the world to own a gold asset that you can develop and ultimately produce from. But where we really stand apart is we're in Wyoming, and Wyoming is a state that governs its own process. So we went through the due process of permitting in the space of 3.5 years. Now, if we had been on federal ground or in any of the other states where the feds control all that regulation, it's a 10 to 15-year issue right now. So, yeah, we're in a great spot. So we've managed to get our permits. We've got a wonderful reserve sitting there that's ready to be developed. And it's pretty good timing from an investor standpoint.
Thank you for that answer. So could you please give me a little bit more detail on your flagship CK project and the potential there, and maybe any other projects you have in the portfolio?
Certainly. Yeah, so CK, back to that, that is 20 miles due west of Cheyenne. And for those of you, I don't expect everyone to know where Cheyenne and Wyoming is either. So Cheyenne is in the sort of southeastern corner of Wyoming, just sitting right above Colorado. Okay, it's about an hour and a half drive from Denver, Colorado to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then another 20 minutes onto the project. So great location, of course. Again, it's a resource state, less than 580,000 people in the whole state of Wyoming. So quite a small populace, but they garner a lot of their taxation and revenues from coal, trona, all the way through wind farms, and now big digital companies are coming in there, putting in their cloud banks and different things. So it's a highly functioning state that relies on exploitation of resources, and we're happy to be a part of it.
So thank you for those details, Luke. Would you mind telling us about the other assets in your portfolio?
Yeah, of course. So we have Challis in Idaho that we're just completing a little bit of consolidation around that project, but we cannot wait to get in there and put the real marked exploration program in there at some juncture. But our initial flagship project when we started US Gold Corp is the Keystone asset, which is in Nevada. Of course, Nevada is the home to the two monster gold companies on the planet, Newmont and Barrick. That's where they became the big companies they are today because of their discoveries down there. And Keystone sits just right across the valley from Barrick's flagship operation down there. And we're pretty excited. We want to get on there. We want to get in and explore. However, until this market environment changes, we're just going to continue on with the development.
So thank you for that. And I'm happy that you focused largely on your flagship project because, again, as an early company, we want to make sure we're laser focused on making sure we can get returns, but there's other optionality with other assets. So that's great to hear. So I just got two last questions for you here. So every company that I look for that's successful usually exhibits three things: the people, the process, and the product. So what we've touched on a lot now so far has been the product. Again, gold, why it's bullish, why now, why the junior miner should maybe benefit. We've also talked about your process, meaning, again, why we've chosen this location, why we're working on our flagship project. Would you mind telling me a little bit more about your team? Because it looks like, again, as the chairman, you've assembled a really strong team here with a track record of success. And just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, look, I took you through all those risk factors, when we're trying to evaluate these opportunities even ourselves. The biggest one, and the reason why I left the brokerage side of the business and came over to the pubco side, was a lack of quality management. And so that was always something I've focused, any company I've ever worked on or with, is quality of management. So yeah, you're right. I managed to bring in George B., who's our CEO. George has built Barrick's largest mines on the planet down in South America. I mean, there's no more qualified a gold mine builder, quite possibly on the planet, than George B. So, 16 years with Barrick, and now he's running a small junior operation. It's a real testament to the quality of the asset, of course, but testament to US Gold Corp itself that we managed to have such a qualified, professional at the helm.
So the saying is that world-class assets attract world-class people. So that's kind of what I'm hearing, is that there's a reason why he chose to come here and maybe not go to somewhere else. So in closing, Luke, I'm wondering if there's any final comments you would like for investors to be left with.
Yeah, look, I would love for people to reach out to us and learn more about the company. There's a lot more to us than just gold, even like CK Gold. That project has evolved while we spent the last 4 years engineering and permitting the project. So it's got a big copper component. Now, copper has become a very valuable asset, of course, but now a critical mineral in the US. So very important to note. But in these coming weeks and months, if people care to start following us and follow our press, a really, really unique side to this project is we uncovered that our waste rock is a highly valuable aggregate source in the area, high demand, high spec, all the highs. So we've got 35 million tons of this rock, which was previously noted as waste rock, that's now going to be a saleable commodity alongside with our copper and gold. So just lots of good value metrics coming on this company. So we'd love to have you on board.
Thank you very much for your time today, Luke. And for the audience, we'll make sure to leave those details in the description if you want to follow along after. And then again, please just make sure you read the description for full disclosure details. Thank you again for your time today, Luke.
Yeah, thank you.